6:32 to the February 18th, 2025 hybrid meeting of the Planning and Zoning Board. Because this is a hybrid meeting, it functions a little bit differently than our regular in-person meetings. So I'm going to read some procedures for remote participation. This hybrid meeting will be conducted in person or remotely over Zoom. Attendance by planning board members may be in person or remote, and both types of attendance shall count towards quorum. This meeting may be broadcast live and recorded on ECAT. To use Zoom, you will need to use the link in the agenda or download the Zoom application and create an account or use one of the call-in numbers listed at the agenda. You will need the webinar ID to join by phone only. When conducting hybrid meetings, we will endeavor to keep meeting operations as close to standard procedures as possible. However, use of the remote platform will necessitate some additional meeting protocols. While the board members or commissioners and applicants will be on video and audio, public participants invited to speak by chair will be in person on video and or on audio. Public participants joining by Zoom will be muted with no video feed from them. Public lines will be muted throughout the meeting to allow the board to conduct business and to eliminate background noise. For general meetings, not hearings, and for only the items under which this chair solicits public comment, members of the public participating in the Zoom meeting may submit a written question via text chat, provided they include their full name and address for the public record. Members of the public viewing the meeting on ECAT may submit questions in writing via email to depd@easton.ma.us. The chair reserves the right to respond to the questions during the live meeting, but may limit the time for such activities. Any questions not addressed in the meeting will be answered afterwards via email and be incorporated into the minutes of the meeting for public record. All votes will be by roll call. For public hearings during the public testimony portion of the meeting, members of the public joining via Zoom may be recognized by using the raise hand function found under participants from Zoom, or make a request with the Q&A function. If you're joining only by phone, you can press *9 to raise your hand. When starting testimony, please state your name and address for the record. The chair reserves the right to designate a specific point of the hearing at which testimony may be offered, the duration of the comment period afforded to each individual and or entity, and the number of individuals and entities permitted to speak. So first we're going to start with a roll call. Kidd?
Present.
Zygmunt?
Present.
Weeks?
Here.
And Wolf is here as well. And for the record, Alan Weeks is a voting member tonight. So first on the agenda, we have the continued public hearing for 154 Elm Street Definitive Subdivision, Thayer Estates. All right, welcome. Please state your name for the record.
Do you want me to get the plan up for you?
If you don't mind.
And I'll do share.
Oh, that's perfect.
So I have to press share though. Hold on. And I'll press share. Give me 1 second.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My name is Bob Forbes from Zenith Consulting Engineers, and I want to thank Suzanne for setting this up to get this going. Okay, beautiful. We have the plans back here. So we haven't been here in a couple of months, and we were sent away with the job of getting the drainage design reviewed and approved by the town's consulting engineer, the town's peer reviewer. And what I'd like to do is just go. So the changes that we had to make to the plans, it's essentially the same project. We have it's a 4-lot subdivision. We've kept everything on the front of the property, and we're preserving all of the backland as open space / these are all wetlands through the middle here. So it's exactly what you saw before, except for the fact that, let me go to the next page here. There it is. Okay, so, went ahead too. Bear with me. So you may recall that all of these houses, all these proposed houses are essentially in exactly the same spot they were before, but we were coming in on this side of the property where the cursor is now. And the cul-de-sac is essentially in the same spot as it was. And the reason why we moved it over to the other side, rightfully so, the peer reviewer asked us to take a few more test holes out on the site to see what the soils were like. In one of the test holes of the many we've dug on site, the groundwater was rather high. So it didn't allow us to do what we wanted to do with the infiltration basin, which is this area back here. And by moving we accomplished a couple of things by moving the roadway to the other side. This elevation on Elm Street where we're tying in is 2.5 to 3 feet higher than it was where we were tying in. So it allows us to keep the roadway higher, and that allows us to raise the bottom of the infiltration basin to a point where everything works well as far as the stormwater management standards are. As far as relating to those. The other thing it does is we had some concerns about the stone wall, and this just happens to be exactly the entrance here now is exactly where the existing driveway is. So there's already an opening there. It needs to be widened for a roadway as opposed to the driveway, but we accomplished that. Conservation Commission, and I believe some members of this board had some issues with the amount of trees. You can see these little symbols here are existing trees, and they're nice, mature trees on the site. And both this board and the commission had concerns about those trees having to come down because our road was going right over those. So with this design, we're able to preserve almost all of those trees. A couple of them still have to come down in order for us to put the house and the septic system in here. So it also, moving it over, we were able to slightly shorten the roadway length, so we have a little bit less impervious area, a little bit less paved area. Let's see. After our meeting, the last time I was here, we went out in the hall and had a really nice meeting with the couple that lives in this house lot. Our roadway was right up against their property line, and there's a portion of their driveway drains onto our property and then back out. So it drains off of their house, over their driveway, onto our property, and back out this way. So the other thing that moving the roadway over allows us to do is not only model it to act exactly the same as it does now, but to be able to preserve that flow path. There's a couple of depressions there that water flows into. The consulting engineer asked us to model those, and we've done that. And what this does is that we keep all of that exactly the same, except we have much less runoff going towards it now. So the effect to that nice couple next door is that there's going to be a reduction in any runoff going towards those depressions, which are on this property, not on their property, but on this one, but they do overflow and go over onto their property. And then actually you can see the swale that comes here, and this is the town's property, so this is where we are right now. So we've made significant headway with the drainage design. There are only appears that there are only a couple of minor things at this point. And one of them is we have to create a basin, to build our infiltration basin, we have to build up a berm. On one side, we're digging down on one side, we're building up a berm on the other side, and it gives us an impoundment for the stormwater runoff. On the outside slope of the basin, on this plan where we show a retaining wall, 4 foot high, maximum in this corner, 4 foot high. I've since this morning, and I've had discussions with Stephanie, who's been very helpful as well. And I've replaced that with a 1-to-1 riprap slope rather than a retaining wall. The reviewer has a different interpretation than I and many other engineers do about that that outside slope, not the inside of the basin, but the outside slope, and feels that the stormwater management policy says that should be 3-to-1 slope. We have a 1-to-1. The reason why we can do a 3-to-1 slope, and the reason why we're not showing it on these plans is because if we do, it pushes everything away from this side, away from this side, and it starts encroaching more and more into the wetlands buffer zones. We wouldn't have any wetlands impacts, but we'd have to encroach. And my estimation is it's probably going to be about 30 to 50% more wetlands buffer zone impacts than we have now. So we haven't had a chance to discuss that with Jennifer Carlino, who's the Concom agent, but she is on vacation for a couple of weeks, so we won't be able to have that conversation for a couple of weeks. So we're hoping that she agrees with us about that outside side slope, and then we pretty much be all done as far as the stormwater review goes. So as you can tell, we've resolved all the issues except for this very minor detail. So if you have any questions, I'd be happy to respond.
All right, thank you, Mr. Forbes.
No problem.
Stephanie?
I don't have anything to add.
Okay. Board members?
Like positive changes?
Yeah, I think it's funny because we were kind of moving the roadway forced our hand. We were forced to move the roadway to make it work, and then I think it works out better for the entire project, to be honest. I don't think there's it doesn't create any negative, anything that would additionally be negative as to what was already there. It's all positive. It's all positive changes that I can tell.
So, Mickey, I do have one comment. And one, I believe that the roadway being where the driveway wasn't was a question or an item that had been raised by the board. And certainly, I know Wayne Beitler, who represents the Historical Commission, commented on that as well. One of the recommendations, I know John Chesia, who's reviewing the project for stormwater management, was that there be an easement on the first lot, indicating that there will be no changes to that grade. So the changes that Mr. Forbes is describing would need to exist in perpetuity, or so that it wouldn't create a problem for the abutters.
It's an excellent comment and one that we have no problem with. We would like to do that because it's the water's going into those existing depressions now. We're proposing it continues to do exactly less water, but go into the same ones. And we certainly don't want somebody coming in and filling those in and doing something. So it's an excellent comment.
So should we just kind of continue the public hearing for you until Jennifer is back?
That's up to, Stephanie and I have talked about
Okay.
that, and that's up to this board and you, Stephanie. So we're happy to do whatever you guys desire at this
All
point.
right.
And I did have a conversation myself with the peer reviewer today, but I have not had a chance to follow up with Bob on that
Okay.
conversation.
So it sounds like some time for some follow-up and getting in touch with the relevant folks would be helpful. Do we want to make it to the next meeting, or do you want to, maybe, the next meeting is the third? Would that be enough time,
The
or?
Conservation Commission is meeting after
The
that.
Conservation Commission is meeting after that.
Okay,
I
who's
don't
still-
believe Jennifer will even be back, and either the 3rd or the
She's
4th
back
she's
on the
coming
14th,
back.
I think. Is it the 3rd or the 4th?
It's beyond the 3rd. I remember she wanted to meet with me on
I guess
either
it
the,
probably is the 4th.
she wanted to meet with me on either the 4th or the 5th,
Yeah.
Claire and I. I'm away until the 6th, so I can't do that. So I'm actually not going to
Okay.
be there on the 3rd. So it probably makes sense to do it at the following one,
So the
just so we have a
the-
chance to meet with Jennifer.
So
to
the
discuss
17th?
those.
Our meeting is the 31st.
We have one on
No,
the 17th, right?
March 3rd and March 31st.
Really?
Yes. I thought we had one on the 17th.
Why do we have such a big gap?
Weird.
Probably because everyone else
We
had
do have a
those.
gap, not till the 31st. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
The 17th is St. Patrick's Day. I don't know if maybe that's why.
Maybe that's why.
No, that's not.
No.
Not a time. That's one holiday we do not get off.
City of Boston does, because it's evacuation day in the city of Boston.
Right.
Is the 31st acceptable to get everything kind of?
Yeah, I think that
Okay.
will give us plenty of time to get
All
it
right.
wrapped up.
Do I have
Hopefully.
do I have a motion from a board member?
I'll make a motion to continue. What address is this? 154 Elm Street to the 31st of March.
Second, kid?
All right. Any further discussion? Seeing none. Kid,
Aye.
Weeks,
Aye.
Sigmund,
Aye.
and Wolf is an aye as well. So we will see you back, Mr. Forbes, on the 31st of March.
Thank you very much.
All right. Thanks.
Appreciate it.
All right, moving on to the next item on our agenda, we have the continued public hearing for 95 Highland Street, special permit mixed use RK Realty Trust. All right, welcome everyone. If you wouldn't mind stating your names for the record.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the planning board. Brian Dunn with MDL Land Development and Permitting with offices at 5 Bristol Drive here in the town of Easton.
Tracy Duart, I'm the Director of Engineering, also of MBL.
Good evening, Brianna Carrera. I'm the attorney for the project, and I apologize for my absence last meeting.
Welcome all.
Thank you.
Do you have a presentation for us? Okay.
Yeah, we're just gonna put up the presentation and landscaping plan because it probably shows most of the changes.
There we go.
There you go. So since the last meeting, we've updated the plans to address the comments that we discussed at the meeting. So as you can see on the plan, we've added the reserved reserved signage, pavement signage, and sign for the tenant spaces at the back of the building. We've also added more landscaping to the front of the site at Stephanie's recommendation. So we did some groupings of some shade trees at the front of the site to provide additional landscaping. Not shown on this plan, but on the lighting plan, we've updated the notes in the lighting plan to call out the dark sky compliant light fixtures. And on the detail of the site sign that's at the front of the site, we've updated it so that there's a little more room for signage for the second retail tenant. On top of that, we've responded to the peer reviews comments, which there weren't too many initially, but we had just gotten a letter right before the previous hearing. We've updated the drainage report and plans, sent it back to them, got revised comments, and I believe there's only 2 outstanding comments that he said could be made recommendations for conditions of approval. One of them was the modeling of the sediment forebays. One of them still had exfiltration checked off, so he says we can uncheck that and resubmit it, but it's really negligible, the amount of water that the forebay could hold, so it wouldn't affect anything. And the other one is he'd like some notes added to the dewatering detail on our site plans that match the dewatering description in our drainage report. So that was pretty much the summary of all the changes. If you guys have any additional comments, I will say we did file the notice of intent, which is just under the local bylaw with conservation, and we're on March 17th for that.
Excellent. Steph, any comments?
No, they've addressed everything.
Excellent. Board member?
I think in my report, I indicate what the conditions should be that would be added to any decision sheet. Again, I would like to ask, I'm sure I asked this at the last meeting, so was it determined that I think it was an isolated land subject to flooding, but it's only under the bylaw?
That is correct. So
Okay.
what we did was we put some plans together. We sent them to Jennifer, got her input on the plans before we filed anything. We verified it would be only under the bylaw and how we are showing all the buffer zones and so.
compliance.
and show the compliance, correct.
Okay, so you're expecting that this will be a one meeting and done with the
I would think so
Conservation
after the review that we've received.
Yeah.
But what we want to do is, we do have to come back for you, this board, to sign the plans. So we would like to be able to hear what the Conservation Commission has to say. I don't think that they're going to have many changes because really the stormwater compliance, we're there. I think that that's the crutch of their review and the protection of the resource areas, which your peer review consultant has pretty much confirmed that that's what we're doing. So I don't think that they're really gonna have any issues. So I think it would be a one and done, and then we would come back after that and have you sign the plans at that time. And we can put on the special conditions and some of the other things and check off what we need to add to the plans based on your recommendations as well as your peer review consultant.
Okay.
That answers my question.
All right. Board members?
No, I think everything's been addressed. I saw the update to the sign.
As this is a continued public hearing, do we have any members of the public wishing to comment? No one here? No one online?
We thought that AJ and Hector might be joining online. They were out of the country, but they said that they would try to get on to the call, but I don't know if they're on or not.
Okay.
Okay.
Seeing no comments from the public. So do we need to keep the public hearing open until we hear back from the Conservation Commission?
Well, if there are any changes that the board would need to consider, you don't want to
Yeah.
close it.
All right.
And you're not asking for it to be closed?
Well, I thought that, I was thinking that we would have closed the public hearing, have you guys vote on the site plan and the special permit, and then we'll go to Concom. If they come back with, major changes, then we'd have to come back to you for a plan
So
amendment.
I guess I misheard Mr. Dunn because I thought he was saying he'd come back to the next meeting.
For you to sign,
Regardless.
the plans after. So we would go to the Conservation Commission on the 17th of March. Hopefully, one and done, close. And then if there was anything minor changes, we would show them on the revised plans based on the commission and then come back for you to sign those plans.
On the
So,
3rd?
a couple of things.
Yeah.
The applicant does not need to come back to have the board sign the plans. If nothing changes, the board will sign it at their next meeting, or if the meeting isn't in person, then they will come and, to the office and vote after the appeal period.
Okay.
So,
Okay, it'll get signed.
and what the board could motion and vote is that the applicant doesn't need to come back to the board if there are changes, if they are determined insignificant, and you could authorize me to make that determination. So for me, anything significant would be a change in the stormwater design. And really, I can't see where the commission, because this is an isolated land subject to flooding, it's south of the property, it's buffer zone. They're not increasing impervious surface at the site. In fact, you're
There's a
reducing
decrease.
impervious surface. So I can't, and if Mr. Dunn is accurately reporting, his office has had a conversation and received guidance from the conservation agent. So again,
She
taking.
issued her report too with no changes to the
Okay.
plans.
So based on those considerations, I think the board could vote to close and issue, if the applicant wants, vote to issue a decision
Subject
subject
to the...
to
Conservation
that.
Commission. Sorry.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we'd be more than happy to go along with that. and having Stephanie review any changes that might come out from the Conservation Commission. More than happy to go along with that condition, Mr. Chairman.
All right, so board members, do I have a motion?
So it'd be motion to close the public hearing for 95 Highland Street special permit, contingent upon the Conservation Commission meeting on the 17th of March.
Second?
All right, any more discussion? Seeing none, Weeks,
Aye?
Zigman,
Aye.
Kidd,
Aye.
and Wolf is an aye as well. So
No, we need a vote
Now-
on the site plan.
Now we
Yep.
have to vote on,
now we're gonna, site plan,
So,
we have a motion for the site plan subject to,
motion to approve the site plan, subject to Stephanie's discretion on major or minor changes that may require coming back to the board.
Second, Kidd.
okay, any further discussion? Seeing none, Zigman,
Aye.
Weeks,
Aye?
Kidd,
Aye.
and Wolf is an aye as well. All right, thank
Thank
you
you very much.
Thank you very much.
Stephanie.
Thank you.
Close the public hearing,
Yes,
We did.
and you voted on the site plan, but are you voting on the special permit?
They did
just
that first.
They did that first.
Yeah,
But you have to close the public hearing.
They
Oh.
did.
That was the motion.
that was the
Yeah.
We
motion.
did not vote on
We
the
didn't vote
special.
on the special permit, we need
Oh,
one more.
okay,
Good catch.
okay.
Okay,
Yeah, we just closed
Okay.
the hearing. Yes.
all right, so, thank you, Suzanne.
Thank you for catching that. So,
All right, do I have one more motion?
Different thing.
yes, motion to accept, to approve the special permit. Again, per any potential changes that Stephanie would review after the Conservation Commission meeting on March 17th.
Second?
Any further discussion? Seeing none, Kidd,
Aye.
Zigman,
Aye.
Wolf, Weeks,
Aye?
and Wolf is an aye as well. All right, we got that piece set.
Thank you so
Thank
much
you.
again.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Have a great night.
Thanks, you too.
Thank you.
All right, up next, we have a public hearings for 642 to 644 Turnpike Street, special permit, Aquifer District Protection District, Walnut Tree, PMP Consulting. Kathy, you want to read us in?
Yes, I will.
All right.
Who's here for this?
This is on Zoom.
Okay.
In accordance with the provisions of MGL Chapter 40A, Section 9 and Section 11, the Easton Planning and Zoning Board will hold a public hearing on Tuesday, February 18th, 2025, to be held in person in the Colin Corona Room in the Easton Town Hall, 136 Elm Street, and remote via Zoom on the application received from Easton Ventures LLC for a special permit Aquifer Protection Overlay District under Easton Town Code Chapter 235 Zoning 235-46 Aquifer Protection Overlay District to allow the construction of a commercial building and a contractor yard with fuel storage at 642-644 Turnpike Street, Easton, Mass. Do I need to read the assessors? Assessors map 57U, lot 16, and 57U, lot 16A.
All right, thank you, Kathy. Welcome. If you wouldn't mind introducing yourselves.
Sure. My name's Ed Jacobs, professional land surveyor and president of PMP Consulting, Inc., representing our clients. And with me, I have Sammy Cripps, site designer from our office, engineer for the project from PMP, Mike Peralt, and also attorney Walter Marioni.
All right, welcome all.
Okay. So we're here tonight for our applicant, Walnut Tree Services. And as you stated, it's for a special permit to construct a 16,000 square foot building to house his operations for his tree services. We've been to this, board before, had preliminary meetings, and so basically what he does is he's a tree operation. The building will house the cranes that he uses for his operation. And up in the top of the screen there, we have those large truck parking spots. Those are where all the trees, cutting trucks and brush and chippers and all that will be parked overnight. He's going to have logs show up on the site from the sites that he clears, and those will be stored on site. Some of them will be selected, set aside, cut up for firewood. Others will be set aside for mulch and that sort of thing. So it'll be a whole tree operation on this site. I know some of the questions that have come up are about the fueling on the site. So a typical day would be, it's a seasonal business, as you know. So right now it's kind of slow, winter time. There's not that much need as it would be during the spring and summer and fall months for the fuel truck to show up. But this time of year, a fuel truck would come a couple times a week. It's a typical 3,000-gallon fuel truck, something you'd see like for an oil delivery service, except it contains diesel. And it would show up on the site and it would fuel the trucks at the top of the screen there inside of that containment system. And we can get into what that entails in a little bit. While it's fueling the trucks, neither the fueling truck nor any of the trucks it's fueling are allowed to be allowed to be running. If there's cranes that need to be fueled, the cranes are stored inside the building. The fuel truck will drive down to the building. There's access garage doors in the back. There's containment systems inside of the building, under the concrete slab, and the cranes will be fueled inside the building. There's also fuel that needs to be stored inside the building. Sammy, do you have that exhibit you can pull up? This. All right, so this shows where the fueling will take place. As I said, the truck and the equipment will be fueled. That's the yellow rectangle on the top. Those will be fueled up there by the fuel truck. The cranes will be fueled inside the orange. That's the building. And then in the southwest corner of the building, in that bottom left-hand corner, that's where the cabinet, there's a fuel cabinet that will sit on top of a containment pallet. And that'll house 10 5-gallon containers of gasoline for the chainsaws and handheld equipment. The way those will be filled is Michael Gomez, the owner, will take his pickup truck to the gas station. He'll fill those containers with gas. He'll come back onto the site, back his pickup truck into that last bay up until the containment area, unload the gas cans and put them inside the fuel cabinet. So that would be pretty much how the operation would run. The outside personnel that works for Michael, running the equipment, running the cranes, the trucks, the chippers, they'll show up on site between 5:30 and 6 o'clock along with the fuel truck. The fuel truck will come in, fuel the trucks again while it's shut off. None of the trucks will be idling. The fuel truck won't be idling. He'll fill the trucks that need to be filled at that time. Not all the trucks will be needed to be filled every day. He'll go down, fill the cranes that need to be filled, and then he will leave the site. Then the operators of the cranes and the trucks will go out, start the vehicles, leave the site, and go out to their jobs for the day. At the end of the day, 6:30, 7 o'clock, sometimes in the summer, 4 o'clock in the winter, they'll come back, they'll park their trucks, they'll get in their cars, their vehicles, and they'll go home. That's pretty much a typical day of the operation. The logging and mulch manufacturing will take place at the bottom right-hand corner of the property, furthest away from the residential abutter, up on the northwest corner of the property. And there'll be spigots outside, spaced, so that they can hook up hoses to them for dust control if needed in that area. There'll be no piles of materials or anything like that in the middle of the lot so much, because that'll be used for travel between all the vehicles that, need to get in and out, the cranes, the trucks and whatnot. So most of the operation and storage will be in those bins, the mulch, you see those two bins there that look like a reversed E. That's where, the mulch and things of that will be stored. And then the operation of the grinding of the logs and things like that for the nature of mulch, that'll be done down in the bottom right-hand corner. There was some concern about the residential neighbor to the northwest. We've added a stockade fence surrounding his property, along with some cedar trees. So that'll produce a sound and visual barrier for that neighbor. As you can see, the employee parking is right there behind him, and there's some office parking to the north of the building. We have been through Concom, and we've received approval for a notice of intent conditioning upon NHESP granting the conservation management plan and a conservation restriction plan. And we've given NHESP, National Heritage, we've given them all of the plans and all of the reports from Mark Cooperman, our environmentalist, and they have conditionally approved everything, and they have, I think, they have the word I'm looking for, supplied a draft to Jennifer Colino, a draft letter saying that they have the draft ENF in place and the conservation management plan, and they're in agreement with the site as it lays out. And they're going through the process right now of finishing that up, and we don't see any hurdles with that at all. The Easton Conservation Commission is going to take the back 57 acres or so, and they'll be the beneficiary of that conservation restriction plan and the management area. And with that, if you have any questions on the day-to-day operations or anything else, glad to answer those.
Thank you, Mr. Jacobs. Stephanie?
Okay, so I have a couple of just general questions, and then I'm still expecting more detail, and I'll talk about that in a minute. So, Ed, you talked about the cranes. The cranes are mobile, right?
Yes.
They're mounted on some kind of truck or vehicle, and they leave, but those are being kept in the building.
Correct.
And the other vehicles, trucks, whatever, are going to be kept on the northern portion in that designated area.
That is correct.
And you said that fueling of the small quantities, the 10 5-gallon gasoline jugs or whatever they are, that are going to be properly constructed so that there are no accidental releases. Those are going to be taken off-site and filled at a filling station by the owner on a
Right. Yes. Yep.
basis. The fueling vehicle will come in and fuel up the cranes inside the building.
Yes.
Okay, and then the fueling tank will leave the building and go and fill any of the other trucks and equipment on the northern portion.
Yes.
While they're situated on the berm. So the detail and information that we really need is what kind of spill prevention measures are being taken. Like what you mentioned, and you said it fast and I couldn't hear you. How many gallons is the fueling truck?
It's a typical 3,000-gallon truck.
Okay.
I believe in the information we sent over, we kind of detailed the company's page from their website, and it shows, it shows a typical truck that they would send out.
When was that? When did we receive that?
Sammy? I think it was,
It was the end of last week.
Okay, so I would.
Might be dated the 11th. I have it up if
Stephanie.
I should pull it up.
Yeah. Okay.
The 11th.
I think those were sent on the 30th of December.
so that's, yeah.
This stuff was sent.
So Stephanie, that's a typical truck.
Okay.
I thought that too.
It's Williams Fuel. They've been doing this for 100 years.
Oh, that's a walnut.
And
And
Sammy is also, as part of this narrative that she's handed over to you, she showed that they're certified and licensed.
so I think that for the public as well, I think it would be really helpful to walk through that in that level of detail and information, what we know about the company, what we know about their history with spills and releases.
Sure. Well, what I know is they've been fueling Walnut Tree's equipment since Walnut Tree's been in business over in Stoughton, and they have not had one reported spill or any spill of significance, according to Kate and Michael, the people that run Walnut Tree.
And
They have,
how long
I'm
have you
sorry.
been refueling for Walnut and Stoughton?
Yes,
No, how long have they been doing that at that site in Stoughton?
that I don't know the answer to. I know they've been over there. Walnut Tree has a couple of different sites in Stoughton, and I know they've been over there at least 10 years. Now, all the trucks have spill containment equipment on the site, obviously for small spills. And they've been trained on how to
Can you
how to clean those
quantify
up.
what a small spill is? I mean, a small spill is.
Well, that would be no different from, something happening at a gas station where the hose comes out and, some gasoline spills on the ground. This would be diesel, obviously.
Gallon
And then,
at most.
yeah, and then they throw the containment product out, which is, clay mixed with cat litter, and it clumps it all up. They clean it up, put it back in the truck, dispose of it.
So is that the extent of their spill response capability?
Well, I mean, I don't understand, like, what type of, how big of a incident are we talking about?
What, again, what's the?
There's,
what's in
well,
the-
let me put it this way, that where the trucks are gonna be fueled, up in that yellow area that we were talking about. Sammy, if you could bring that back up. That's a containment area that Mike Peralt designed. There's a berm in the front of that, and the entire rectangle there is graded so that it goes into a tank. I believe it's a 1,500-gallon tank that would hold, the stormwater or any spills in that tank. And that's to be monitored and to be checked. So if there was any spill on that site right there, up to 1,500 gallons of it would be able to be contained in that tight tank, into that tank. I shouldn't say tight tank.
So, so it's not a tight tank
No,
and it discharges.
right.
So if there was a release of up to 1,500 gallons,
Yes,
it would flow into that tank, which then would discharge into the subsurface.
I
it
think
would
I better
go,
take over here.
yeah. I'm gonna let Mike Peralt take over, Stephanie, because he designed it, and it actually goes into another system after that, which Mike can explain right now.
What you have is nothing different than the same fellow that delivers the oil to your oil tank in your residential house. The equipment is designed similar to your fueling of a car, that the nozzles for the delivery shut off. You can't leave them unattended. You can't lock them. Any type of spill is going to be more of drips coming out of the nozzle when you take the nozzle out of the tank, filling up. So in that case, that's an easy cleanup, and the crews are all designed for the cleanup. What you're thinking is if there is something, for example, a hose break, the equipment is set that if a hose breaks, the pump shut down and it stops any flow of liquid except what might be in the hose. So that type of a spill, which is a limited quantity, if it hits the surface and they clean it up, if for some reason or other it's happening during a rainfall event, they're trying to clean it up, and anything that's captured with the rain that goes into the drain would then go into the jellyfish treatment unit. The jellyfish treatment unit is a combination particle separator and containment and cartridge filtration system. And it's meant to remove oils, grease, that type of thing, and it would be absorbed in the media in the cartridges. The filtered liquid, the floatables go to the surface, the filtered liquid then leaves that system and then goes out through the rest of the treatment system for both infiltration and for recharge. The floatables in that jellyfish system are the containment. So you're not going to get the downward motion of floatables like any type of hydrocarbons that are on the surface get down and out of the system, so they're into the surface. The volume of that is much greater than what you would get on any type of an event, for example, a hose breaking at the filling. And as Ed had said, this fuel delivery company has been in business for over 10 years, and there's never been anything that they really had to report. And by the way, any type of a spill of substance has to get reported to the state. And then there's follow-ups with that. So it's not just let's wipe it up and leave. They have to follow up all the protocols, and these guys are licensed to handle the fuel and make the deliveries. That's one of the reasons why the owner of the company has been using a company that is trained with fuel delivery and all the protocols for cleanup, because they're the ones that are licensed professionals for making these deliveries to the property.
So Mike, I'm not trying to put you on the defense.
Oh, no.
Sure.
I'm just trying, I want to make sure I'm explaining this clearly because.
So the company is very familiar, of course, with MCP protocol and reporting spills and releases to Mass DEP.
Yes.
That's correct.
And if a hose should rupture, a pump at the exit point of the tank on the truck is shut off, and the only amount at that point that would get into this tank would be the amount that was in the hose.
That's right. And that's if the guy doing the work doesn't hold the hose up to stop it from discharging. So, because you have an operator there at all times.
And again, those are the assurances that we need to hear. So there's an operator, they do not leave the truck, they stand there. I mean, you'd expect that, but that's.
Yeah, well, we know, we all plan, but we got to make sure, and this is the company has this reputation that they are on top of what they do. And I think that's the reason why they've been doing this for over 10 years for the owner of this company.
Another question I have is, do we have any ideas on, and because this was asked by the Board of Appeals, what the likelihood is of a catastrophic failure. So for example, it's not just that you have a rupture in the hose, but for some reason the pump fails to shut off.
The probability is not high at all. These are the same vehicles that deliver the oil to anybody that has oil in their household in the whole town. And very rarely do you hear about a fuel truck delivery having an issue with a catastrophic failure in a fuel spill. And I think the fire chief can attest to that. In fact, the system inside the building was discussed with the fire department also to make sure he was satisfied with that. So
could you explain the system? So you explained the berm, but what is the
yeah.
system inside the building?
Okay, the building has got two types of systems. For the tanks, the handheld jugs of gasoline that's mixed with oil for chainsaws and that type of equipment. No similar to the same type of jug you have in your shed for your lawnmower. But what this is it's going to be contained in a secured flammable cabinet. And that cabinet is going to sit on top of a pallet. So instead of those jugs sitting on that plastic, the flammable cabinet is going to sit on top of that. And what that is a tight tank, basically. That black thing is a tight tank that can take one of those jugs of gasoline. And if the whole jug discharges, it's contained inside that pallet. So it does not leave the pallet. If for some strange reason something spills and hits the floor of that building, that floor has trench drains that go to an industrial waste holding tank, which is a double-walled tank with alarms and vented, and that is a standard type of industrial waste holding tank that is required by the plumbing code. So we have the containment system, a secured cabinet, a pallet that can take a full spill, and just in case, we have a floor drains inside the building, little oil drops or anything that might come off a truck, that goes into that tank, and that tank is alarmed. So we don't have any discharges whatsoever that go any place in that building except into that industrial holding tank, because the floors is basically slanted from the doors to the drains inside the building.
And I'm sorry, that's a 1,500 gallon?
Yes.
So just another question, why wouldn't you have a similar setup on the northern?
Because every time it rains, that the water's going to go through that jellyfish system. So we would have alarms going off every time it rained.
And how much fuel would the jellyfish hold in the event of a spill? What if you just had a rainstorm?
With the rainstorm, the water's passing down and going through.
It's going to pass.
So there's a volume above that holds it. So any of the floatables, meaning gasoline, diesel fuel, oil, all those are floatables. So they rise to the surface. So even with a rainfall event and with the particle separator, what happens is that stuff stays on the surface. And again, if there's an event, you have people out there that are basically working with the spill kits and reporting and doing their work in order to then open up that unit, put the absorbent bags inside there to absorb the stuff on the surface of that liquid. So that's a major event that they're going to be diligently doing to clean it up as they're going along. So it doesn't happen like in the middle of the night and no one's there to see it.
And then I have one other question, and I don't know the answer. The 50 gallons that are going to be used for the small equipment,
Yeah.
the chainsaws, et cetera, does that trigger needing to register with Mass DEP?
I believe the quantity is below that. It's that triggering mechanism.
Yeah.
But I do know that there's been discussions with the fire chief on that, and I don't believe anything's triggered for actual for a permit to store,
Could someone
because it's not. Yeah. What was that, Stephanie?
could someone check into that?
Yes, we will.
All set, Stephanie?
I think so. For the
Okay.
moment.
I just had a couple of quick questions that I'll open up to the board. Just going off of reading the comments from the Zoning Board of Appeals, with the operation to process logs, is it going to be restricted to the logs taken from the property of clients? Or, okay.
Correct, yes.
All right, thank you. And this sawdust being contained kind of off-site and disposed of, there was some concerns about what would happen to the sawdust in the surrounding areas.
I believe the sawdust will be used to help manufacture the mulch on site.
Excellent, thank you.
Yep.
I'm sorry, I didn't understand the answer. Could you repeat your answer?
Sure, Stephanie. The sawdust will be incorporated in the manufacturing of the mulch on site.
So it will be added to the mulch mix?
Correct.
I think that's the secret ingredient. We don't want to report it too much.
And I'm not sure this was the question Mickey just asked, so if it is, forgive me for repeating.
Yeah.
But the mulch itself, I think Mickey asked if the only logs that would be processed on site are ones that are coming from customers. Will the mulch be used in their services to their customers?
No, they're just a tree clearing company. They're going to have firewood for sale. And I believe they're going to have mulch, the mulch that they make as well would be for sale.
So will they have customers coming to the site?
No, his operation, I spoke with him on this at one of my meetings with him, that they basically try to get any product on the site off their site that next day or that day. When they're manufacturing a mulch, they already have customers that take bulk deliveries. So they'll process this material, put it in their trucks, and then take it off the site to deliver it to their customers. This way here, they're constantly keeping their site clear, and they have their equipment ready for the next day's worth of work. Once in a while, he says that they have a backlog on the logs because of weather, that they can't do work. And so that normally happens the following day. But they try to get the materials in and out as quickly as possible off their site. So they're not having customers coming in. That's why they have very limited parking up front. That's basically coming into the office and for their office staff. And that this is not a commercial site for retail. This is basically a production site where they'll deliver the product off-site.
And they use their own equipment, their own trucks to make those off-site deliveries?
Yes.
Okay.
This guy has quite an investment in trucks.
Thank you. I just had one other question actually relating to trucks, but kind of all the vehicles, and just following up on another piece in the report. It says the presumption is that vehicles will all be registered in Easton. Is that correct?
No, that was my question.
Oh.
So one of the advantages would be if all these trucks are registered in Easton excise tax.
Mhm.
Well, he's moving the whole operation here to Easton.
Stephanie, I can answer that question because
Okay.
in preparation of the DRT meeting, I had asked Michael that question, and Michael's response to me was, at that time, and that was in February of 2024, they had approximately 48 employees and were paying about $150,000 in excise taxes in their other locations in Stoughton, and that would all move over to Easton.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Other board members, any questions?
I have a few questions.
All right.
If I may.
Of course.
I can't remember if we've covered this at previous meetings, so apologize if we did, but the service and repairs for the trucks and cranes and stuff are not going to be happening on this site?
He typically sends them out to a truck or crane repair center.
Okay. And what about the washing of all this equipment? Offsite as well?
I'm not sure on that question, but if they are going to do something, it would be inside that building and or over to into the containment area.
Okay, so any kinds of washing chemicals that they might use would be caught up in the system that we were just talking about.
Yes.
Okay. And what about the storage? I know they do tree cutting. I don't know if they do anything else involving fertilizers or pesticides in trees. So there's no storage, no use of that on site.
No.
No. Okay.
And my last question, I was looking at the lighting for the site. Is that I know there's one off the back of that property to the northwest corner. Is that being directed away so that it won't interfere with that neighbor there?
Yes, all the lighting is going to be the night shading type of light fixtures.
Okay, the dark sky.
Dark sky, and nothing is basically going to be reflecting over to that one residential abutter that's adjacent to the property.
Okay, and does the lighting stay on all night, or will it shut off when the site shuts down for the night?
Behind the building will probably be on all night because of security.
Okay.
Because this guy's got an investment in equipment out there, but it's again, this is not something that's going to be like a auto sales facility.
Okay, that's all. Thank you.
Can I just follow up on Joanne's question about the lights? Will these be motion activated lights?
I believe they're not. I believe they're going to be security type of lights that will be there. So, you know, if the camera systems out there for their security will be able to catch anything too. I believe, I don't know, Sammy, did the final lighting plan get in?
Yes.
Okay. Those are the same type of fixtures, I believe, that the or similar to what he currently has at his facilities in Stoughton.
Did we get a photometric plan?
I was going to say, I don't see
Yeah,
a
no,
photometric plan.
I'm pretty
There
sure
isn't one.
There isn't.
I submitted one, I think, early last week. I can pull it up.
Okay, thank you.
I think there is. I
Okay.
remember seeing it.
I saw there's some lights noted on one of the plans we have in our packet, but I don't think I see a photometric one.
Yeah, this was a specialty plan. Sammy, you can grab that one.
Yeah, I'm just gonna stop sharing for a moment so I can find it.
I have another question.
Yeah.
So how frequently is the tight tank emptied, and how is that emptied? And then the jellyfish cleaned
I don't have one in mind.
How is that?
Okay. Before we hop back to the lighting plan, let me answer Stephanie's questions, if you will. The industrial waste holding tank has got an alarm system that when it reaches a certain depth of water in that tank, the alarms go off, and that's when it's pumped out. So I believe that's 2/3 of the depth of the tank. That's when it gets pumped. The jellyfish system has a very stringent inspection schedule that was mandated by the Conservation Commission, and that's in the stormwater management report. And the first year, I think it's twice a year, and after that is a yearly inspection by the service representatives from Contech, which are the manufacturers, and they monitor the cartridges, and then the cartridges, the whole thing gets pumped out, the cartridge material removed on site, disposed of into a truck. The cartridges are taken out, they're refurbished, and in the meantime, new cartridges are put in with the media. So there's a whole protocol for those servicing of the jellyfish systems, but they are monitored basically by the contact people, and they have enough experience with them and sites like this to know how often they need to be out there and what the turnaround time is for cartridge replacement. Typically, it's on the 4 to 5 years before they have to refurbish the cartridges.
And so that's the, skipping back to the lighting plan really,
Yeah.
sorry, we don't have one in our packets, so it's helpful for us to see it here. Okay.
Can you see the plan on the screen?
Yeah, thank you very much.
Oh, okay.
Sammy, can you zoom in on the building first? Yes. If you zoom in a little bit more, we want to be able to see what those little numbers are on the plan.
Those are, yeah. But I think they go out to 0.
Right. So typically you try to have lighting up to a foot candle, 1 foot candle. You can see that I think the blue is the 1 foot candle footprint, and then it drops back out, and then to like a 1/10 of a foot candle, and then the rest of the majority of that site is 0. So it's the employee parking area is lit, obviously for safety of the employees to come in, especially in the wintertime. There is some lighting along the front of the building, but doesn't even go out to the street. And then as we go a little bit further up the page, Sammy, that's the employee parking. And you can see that only one corner of that fenced-in area has more than a foot candle on the neighboring property. And once you're not even 15, 20 feet onto the property, you're down to 0 again. So it's really situated so it's not really lighting up the property. And then in the truck storage area, there are 2 lights there. You can see that that's lit. That's lit to protect those vehicles. But the spillover to less than a foot candle to 0 is relatively close in onto the site. And then along the back side of the site, there's lighting in there. And again, that comes out not even into the middle of the site with the lighting. And the thing with lighting, you can see lights from distances away. You can see stars. So your eye perceives light, but the intensity of the light with measured on the ground with the foot candles, that's where you get visibility when you're working onto a site. So this lighting plan is designed basically to meet the needs of this owner for security for his building and his equipment, but at the same time, not light up the whole site across the board. So that's how this was put together. So you can see they've achieved that goal. And if you don't have in the office, Sammy can follow up with you tomorrow to make sure that you do have the hard copies of this.
Much appreciated, thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
Board members, any other questions, comments? All right, so as this is a public hearing, do we have any members of the public wishing to speak to this? Is there anyone online, Suzanne? Okay. All right, so with this public hearing, we're still waiting to hear back. Jennifer's on vacation, so we haven't heard back from her, or?
No, basically, and you heard Mike just report that the Conservation Commission has issued their
Okay.
order of
Oh,
conditions
excellent,
and
okay.
closed and approved the stormwater system.
Okay.
And have established some stringent guide operations inspections.
Excellent, I'm sorry, I thought there was some draft that was sent to her, a draft letter that was, they mentioned that was going to her.
Well, that draft letter was the draft of the agreement for the conservation restrictions from the National Heritage Endangered Species Program.
Got
So
it.
they were,
Okay. Thank you, I'm sorry.
that's all right. There's a lot of acronyms out there.
Actually, I'm sorry, I stand corrected. Have they, I don't think they have closed because they're waiting for the CR. Is that correct?
No, they closed and approved.
Okay, they did. All right.
They felt reasonable. Typically, you cannot close the hearing unless you have your approval from National Heritage.
Right.
In this case here, they had a reasonable information that they're getting the full approval from National Heritage. Everything is basically approved into draft format, and they're waiting for the final version to be issued. And so that they felt comfortable that at that point in time, they have basically approval from National Heritage, and they felt comfortable to close the hearing and issue the order.
So, can I ask?
Sure.
Suzanne, did we receive any other comments from the other agencies on the special permit? Oh, this right here? Okay, sorry. Yeah, DPW basically says this project will require a Mass DOT state highway layout permit for utility work. You need to contact the DPW for more information. DPW will provide a revised water connection detail for this project at that time. And then we received, aside from the Board of Appeals, did we receive any comments from any of the other?
Nothing from the abutters? Where did we land on the ambient noise issue before 7 a.m.? I saw a communication from the applicant.
Perhaps, Madam Chair, Mr. Marioni would like to respond to that?
Mr. Marioni, would you like to respond to the
submitted a letter
ambient
to the board.
noise? One of the members had a question about it.
I mean, we submitted a writing addressing the section of the bylaw at the request of the chair. I don't think, there's much there in terms of applicability of the bylaw. Stephanie had talked about some possible conditions. Stephanie and I had a offline conversation about this. You mentioned something about making sure that the vehicles that are going to be parked up behind the home, so the trucks, are not idling before a certain hour in the morning. Talk to the applicant about that. That's not a problem because those trucks, when the employees show up, they literally get in the vehicles and take off. So that condition is not an issue. And then there was the bylaw has the language in the bylaw is that the board may consider these things and put conditions in about things like hours of operation and ambient noise being measured at the property line can't exceed a certain level, and that's fine. I mean, if that's something that is important to the board for that one home, because that's what we're talking about is that one home. It's no issue.
Thank you. I did see too that in the letter submitted that if there is an issue, the applicant would be willing to arrange for a noise study. So that's helpful as well.
I mean, yeah, it's a zoning issue. If the zoning enforcement officer comes on site and says, we believe there's some kind of violation here, and we've whatever he's done, we've taken some measurements with, I don't remember what you call that meter that they use, and we believe it's close, then, the applicant has to address it. That's fair is fair, right? We got to live by the bylaws that are in place. So it's not a problem.
Excellent, thank you.
Yes, of course.
All right, so next steps would be to close the public hearing, seeing that the conditions kind of are in place.
So I'm putting this out there for discussion because the zoning board did have many questions, the zoning board of appeals, and we've received answers to those questions. Would the applicant be adverse to holding open the hearing until we could at least provide those answers and responses to the board and give them an opportunity to provide additional comments or perhaps a recommendation to support the project?
Stephanie, if that's something the board wants to do, we obviously are going to agree with that. I would just like to say that the authority under the bylaw is the Planning and Zoning Board.
Correct.
The Planning and Zoning Board, in exercising their authority, is instructed to seek input from various boards and agencies. And you've done that, and you have that. I can't think of all the years of chairing the Zoning Board of Appeals, and I chaired the Zoning Board of Appeals for 20 years, where we got comments from boards, and then in order to exercise our permit granting authority, we went back to that board and said, hey, are you okay with these responses? I mean, those responses and their comments are meant to inform you. Not you, Stephanie, but the board.
Mm-hmm.
So I only say that to say, it's unusual, but if the board feels that that's important, then, the answer is always the same. We're here to work with the board. The board works with us. It's a good relationship, and we're not going to do anything to get in the way of that. But at the same time, if the board feels as though it's informed, I would ask the board not to do that.
Thank you for your comment. I appreciate that. I would say this is kind of more lengthy of a commentary than I've ever really seen from an agency in the times that I've been reviewing this, and I've not been on the board for too long. But this is a lot of questions, 14 separate questions from the ZBA. And I'm kind of a fan of departmental and interagency cooperation. When does the next ZBA meet? Just out of curiosity. March 18th? Okay, that's a little ways away.
Yeah.
That does delay it. Board members, I'll throw it out to you as well. What you thinking? And if the ZBA was meeting any sooner, I'd be inclined to say, let's wait. But I also want to make sure that the applicant is able to kind of proceed in a good pace, and that would put them all the way out to meet with us again to the 31st. And that's kind of, that's a long way.
Mm-hmm.
Madam Chair, can I also just offer again, the caveat is that the board feels as though it's informed, right? Because that's what it takes to make a decision. But the property owner has granted several extensions. We are coming up against those extensions for permitting and closing. And the lender is not going to finance until not only the permits are voted upon, but issued and appeal periods have expired. So, if we don't get a decision out of the board until the end of March, and then that gets recorded and you throw a 20-day appeal period, it creates problems for us. I'm not saying they can't be overcome. I don't know how the seller would react. We've gone back to them a couple of times. But I just want to put that out there because I appreciate the fact that you're thinking of that being out there. It is out there in terms of the schedule that we have.
Mm-hmm. And I very much appreciate that
Thank you.
information. And the fact that this is a public hearing, we just want to make sure that kind of we're doing all of our due diligence with this and thinking it through. And I think the fact that if the ZBA was meeting sooner, I would be more inclined to say let's wait. But it's my personal opinion, and I'd like to hear what the other board members think, that it's waiting until the 31st for them to come back for the closing the public hearing was a little bit too long. But what do Joanne, Alan, and Kathy, what do y'all think?
We only just opened the public hearing today at this meeting. So if there were any, I realize we're talking about waiting on the ZBA and giving the feedback to them, hearing back from them as well. I don't know. Again, I've only been on the board a year, but it seems like a fast public hearing as well.
What is the process of getting a full response to each of these questions?
I think we got most of.
Oh, we kind of talked through them.
We talked through a lot of them.
Yeah.
We have them all on record in the
Right.
public hearing. It's noted. The responses are there. It's just, I guess, providing the responses back to the ZBA and see if they had any more commentary would be what I think Stephanie was suggesting, if there was anything further suggested. But again, this longer period.
Well, I'm actually thinking that Mr. Marioni is right, that it is the board's decision. These were all the questions that I had. There were just a couple more that the Board of Appeals had made. And I feel that once Mr. Perot started providing more detail, that the level of detail I needed to hear was provided.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I think we can put conditions in that we would like to see, copies of protocols that are on hand, and you've provided documentation, Mike. You said I hadn't had a chance to look through it in detail, but for the fueling company.
Yeah, we can get some more information from the fueling company to you also. The owner of the firm has been coordinating with the fire chief, and this is something that's going to be shared with them also because of the equipment that he has there, and because of the fact that he has that cabinet inside the building. So that's all part of his coordination with the fire department. So we'll make sure that the information on Williams Fuel is provided to the board, and some of their history and stuff too can be added in there, and contact information also.
Suzanne, when's this board's next meeting?
Planning board's meeting March 3rd.
We have the 3rd and then the 31st.
Yeah.
If I may, I mean, I'm of the mind that we should just move this along. I think they've already been before us a couple times. The meeting was duly posted, so if anybody did have comments on the project, like with any other project, they could have come tonight to make those statements. We don't really go back and forth with boards often on other projects. I think we've made a really good effort to cover all of the comments that the ZBA did have, and I think the applicants have provided quite a lot of information to reassure us about the fuel storage and what's happening on the site. Subject to them providing that photometric plan as part of the record and making sure all that's there in place. And as Stephanie says, all the fuel assurances for the companies that they use. I feel like I myself feel pretty well informed to make a decision tonight and just moving forward.
So does that mean you'd like to make a recommendation, Joanne? That sounded like a really good listing of all of the conditions there.
Yes.
So let me see. Somebody's going to have to help me up with language on this. So I would like to make a motion to close. Right?
Motion to close, yep.
Yep, motion to close. What address am I looking at here? What's the address? Anybody have it in front of them?
642 to 644 Turnpike Street.
Yes, that's motion to close the hearing for that address, please.
All right.
Second?
All right. Any further discussion? Seeing none. Kid?
Aye.
Zygmunt?
Aye.
Weeks?
Aye.
And Wolf's an aye as well. All right, the hearing is closed. Now, do I have a motion on the special permit?
Motion to approve the special permit for 642 to 644 Turnpike Street
Second?
with
Any conditions attached?
Oh.
with the, provided we have the photometric plan and you want additional documents on everything that was spoken about tonight?
Yeah, I would like copies of the protocols.
Copies of the
Written
protocol.
copies of protocols, I think that's reasonable.
All right, so and we had Joanne, you seconded. Any further discussion? Seeing none. Weeks?
Aye.
Zigman?
Aye.
Kidd?
Aye.
And Wolf is an aye as well. So special permit granted. Then we have this continued site plan review.
So motion to approve the site plan review for 642, 644 Turnpike Street with the prior stated conditions.
Perfect.
Second.
All right, any further discussion? Seeing none. Zigman?
Aye.
Weeks?
Aye.
Kidd?
Aye.
And Wolf is an aye as well. All right, thank you all.
Thank you
Thank
so
you
much.
very much.
Anymore, but thank you.
Thanks for your time. Appreciate all your
Thank
help.
you, and we really appreciate you taking it up tonight, so thank you very much.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Have a good
everybody.
night. Take care.
All right, next on the agenda, we have the site plan review for 718 Washington Street. Do we have anyone here with us? All right.
I think it's Ed Jacobs again.
Yes.
Again. Oh, hello again. I was like, oh, you're on
Hello.
the screen.
Yeah,
You're still there.
we're back.
Hello.
Hi, everyone. Ed Jacobs once again. Actually, Stephanie and members of the board, Mike Peralt's gonna be the lead on this submittal.
All right.
Take it away, Mike.
All right. Thank you for this opportunity tonight to meet with the board. This property, 718 Washington Street, it is an existing property that's been developed with a house and ancillary buildings, and the use on this property is basically being continued. But what's going to happen is that the use is going to be pushed to the front portion of the property. There is some buffer zones for the wetlands. There's riparian zones under the local bylaw, and all of this area was part of an enforcement order for the Conservation Commission early on, and a restoration plan has been put together and basically completed this fall for that restoration. It moved all the incursions into that 200-foot riparian zone out. So the proposed plan to convert this property, and we'll go to the next one, is to create a single driveway entrance in the location of the existing driveway, parking, a multiple bay building. The front bay or front two bays will be retained by the person that owns the property now, and he has some contractor equipment. And what we've done on this site, it'll sound very familiar. We have a containment area where you can park his truck, and those trucks will have a drain that goes to a jellyfish system, and before it goes out into the in-ground disposal systems, and then will overflow out to the back. The building has root drains that are going to be recharged into the ground. The front of the building will have a rain garden, which is a low-impact development feature, which will also allow for recharge of stormwater and the control of stormwater. The front of the property is going on to Route 138. The coordination with Mass DOT has taken place. This design has changed over the time period that we've been working on to it, between the track meetings and the meetings with the state. That entrance now is compliant with what the state requirements are. And the matter is, once we get these permits in hand, then we can finalize our permitting with the state. The site basically it complies with zoning, meets all the setbacks, and we've had fine adjustments with the development of the peer review of Mr. Chesia and the members of the Conservation Commission to come up with a very viable site on this plan here. So we're at this point where we received our approvals from the Conservation Commission, and we're now before this board for this permitting. I can dig deeper into any of the storm drainage, but as the night gets on, you don't want to hear an engineer yak.
Thank you, Mr. Carell. Stephanie, did you have any questions or comments?
So just a couple. And then I want, and some of them are the interagency comments. So the first is and pardon me if you mentioned this, but so the brief indicates the building is flex development, and I don't know what that is. What does flex development mean? It's not a zoning.
Yeah, Stephanie, we found that doing a lot of these in different towns, that calling them contractor bays kind of gets them pigeonholed into, the board's thinking that there's going to be, landscapers, and plumbers, electricians, and things of that nature. And what we're finding out is that when these owners of these so-called contractor bays start getting people interested in the spaces, there's a lot of different uses for those. Some of them are people that might have an online business and they've outgrown where to store their things that they're selling, that sort of thing. So we didn't, we found it just, calling them contractor bays, just kind of pigeonholes it a little bit too much. That's
So I'm
Yep.
just going to make a comment to the board. So we saw this happen and I don't think any of you were board members at the time, but there was a project on Turnpike Street where they constructed contractor bays, and now what you have are actually like a fitness center and I think other sports-related activities, training centers. I don't see that as a problem. However, if the board votes to issue an approval, I think there may be a condition that if a certain activity is going into one of the bays, that you reserve the right to call them back for site plan review to make sure there are adequate parking facilities, et cetera, for the use. I mean, I know there's a contractor bay facility in East Bridgewater that has, they rent out both to tradespeople for their businesses, but also they have a couple of the units set up as softball practice. And it just there's a different dynamic there when you have several people going in at the same time for softball practice that you may not be getting. So again, I don't think it's an issue, but that's something. Then to take into consideration, they have proposed the plant material that they're proposing on the landscaping is all true native species with the exception of the marshmallow hibiscus, which is not native to this area and should be replaced with a species that is. I didn't see a photometric plan. And the comments we have, the water division has disapproved. The water connection needs to be made on the 12-inch DIWM on the opposite side of Washington Street. The domestic service for the building needs to be a direct tap 1 inch before the hydrant shown. The water service should run parallel to the water main, and the curb stop set in parallel to the shown gate valve outside the building. This indicates to me that there are plan revisions that need to be made. Then the Historical Commission commented that the existing structure, or actually the community planner who supports the Historical Commission, that the existing structure is more than 75 years old and a demolition review application is required. So just know that when you submit your application to demolish the existing building, that that will trigger the demolition review process. And I can
Right.
walk through that quickly if you don't know what it is, but basically the Historical Commission would get notification. They would schedule a meeting where they determine whether the building, the structure being demolished is historic. If it is or has historic significance, then they schedule a hearing to determine if it's preferably preserved. And the result of that hearing could trigger a 13-month delay. And you can call my office and we'll direct you to the community planner for more information.
Thank you.
And then the environmental planner had some conditions for soil testing at the stormwater locations, and a revised plan showing the swale between the northerly property line and the retaining wall to scale, and the detail of the swale on the detail sheet be provided. So my recommendation there is that those be conditions of this board as well.
Excellent. Thank you, Stephanie. Board members, any comments or questions?
I think along the lines of what Stephanie was talking about, I'm just trying to understand. So there's 10 bays here. The existing business will occupy 2. And so
Up to 2, 1 or 2 of them.
One to 2. And so 8 are TBD, and that could be office, retail.
No, it has to
No.
comply with zoning.
Right.
So it has to be an allowed use in that zoning district. So it would be someone that needs a small office to run a business, where it'd be someone that has a product that they're basically warehousing and then delivering through their little business, or an electrician that has to have, a supply someplace and there's a small office that he works out of. But as Ed had mentioned, we're trying not to paint the use here with one brush, that it's all contractors, that there may be other uses that you could have in this building that conform with zoning for someone that needs space.
Right.
So it could be commercial, office, or retail?
No retail.
No retail.
Oh, okay. I saw retail and some notes here that I got.
Yeah.
Okay.
No,
So
there was a retail component very, very early on in the discussion phase of this when we first met with Track and Stephanie, and that has been dropped. That's when the site completely changed. We had 2 entrances. We had parking in the front of the building. We had a traveled way going all the way around the building. That has all been revised to show this rendition of it. And Stephanie, just to touch back on the coming back to the planning board as these things come up for these units, what we've done in, other towns, and I'm not saying, that this is the way you should do it or anything like that, but like in Bridgewater, for example, we have, done a few of these, and, everybody that's going to occupy one of these spaces has to go for a building permit. And at that time, they have to tell what their use is. And, based on what that use is, that'll designate what the parking count will be. And what they've done is, if it's going to be up to the person that owns this and is renting these bays out, and the town, to keep track of the parking. And if they run out of parking before they run out of units, well, then they can't rent a unit. So it has to be like on a unit by unit basis with the parking count. through the building department.
So,
that-
so things
that
like the
sounds-
sports complexes or whatnot, or restaurant, or, retail store, those are not allowed to be in any of these?
The zoning would allow it. I mean, it's on Washington Street. It's a business zone, so the zoning would allow a restaurant, but it would not be consistent with what the use is being presented to us at the moment, to have a restaurant there, or, I mean, this,
Retail store
I'm sorry,
or a retail.
or a retail store, which
They
is
do-
a little
they-
different than the,
To back up what Alan is saying, they do have retail listed in their, the PMP site plan.
The original site plan had the front unit being retail.
Correct.
And that was removed. The retail use was removed. And again, as part of the working with the Conservation Commission and people in the track committee, this had a two-way driveway on the south side, a driveway that goes around to the northern side. That building was further to the south side, and there was a one-way exit from the property back onto 138. The parking for all these units was on the northern side of the building, and the building was further back onto the site. So in order to minimize the footprint of the impervious area on the site and reduce the impervious area, when the use of the retail component in the front unit was removed, then we were able to push the building closer to the street. The traffic around the building was eliminated, and everything consolidated closer to the street to keep everything out of the 200-foot riparian zone to the river out back. So all this was done as part of that to eliminate that use and to minimize the impervious area. So therefore, using these units for other than the type of use that we were talking about would require more parking, and the site is not basically designed to handle that. So someone who wants to put something that needs a lot of parking would not be coming to this property in order to put their business there, because it physically is not probable that they can put the parking and meet their own needs for the use of the unit.
Okay.
But I
mean,
do
that's
like
what-
the idea that you could have a condition on this plan to say that, when the building uses start to happen, that the coordination again with the zoning official and building official would have a look-see at what the parking needs are going to be to make sure that the site plan still stays in conformance with the parking spaces provided.
Yeah, well,
And I
that's
think
that's where I was going, is that
yes.
the
Okay.
uses could drive parking, and we're looking
Right.
at something with fixed parking. And
Right,
so
exactly,
How do we
that-
reconcile that? Now, also for a site plan, wouldn't we have a front elevation and a photometric plan, or, some additional detail for an approval?
actually,
Okay.
an oversight on our
What,
part.
what the building would look like? Do you have a front elevation, or?
Tammy, was that delivered early on?
I
I
don't
think it
recall.
might have been. Yeah, that might have happened early on in the phase. I got pulled in with a lot of the stormwater features on this, to do the engineering on this site. We'll check our records. We'll make sure that this gets into your hands.
Okay, thank you.
That would be excellent, thank you.
Yeah.
Board members, any other questions or comments?
Not right now.
Joanne, even though I can't see you?
Not right now, no.
Okay. Sorry, it gets kind of confusing when it's the two people, because it just keeps bumping back and forth as to who's talking. So do we want to continue this, as we don't have some kind of key pieces, elevations and whatnot, in order to make a final decision? Would you be able to have that information to us by the 3rd, which is the next time we meet? Or after that, it would be the 31st?
Tammy, we should be able to get that in, shouldn't we?
I think-
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah,
That
we'll do
sounds
it by
good
the
to me.
3rd.
Okay.
Yeah.
All All right.
So, motion to continue to March 3rd,
The site plan review? Yes,
the
second.
site plan review.
All right. Any further discussion? Seeing none. Weeks,
Aye.
Kidd,
Aye.
Zigmund,
Aye.
and Wolf is an aye as well. So we'll see y'all back here on March the 3rd.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you
And
very much.
if
for all your
Stephanie has
time.
anything else further that she wants to make sure that we get in, she can be in touch with Sammy, and we'll try to make sure that we get everything you guys are looking for.
Yep.
Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
All
Have a good
right.
night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good
Bye-bye.
night.
Yep.
All right, moving on. We had a public hearing for 4 Forbes Lane for a special permit estate lot. Kathy, do you want to read us in?
Sure. In accordance with the provisions of MGL Chapter 40A, Section 9, and Section 11, the Easton Planning and Zoning Board will hold a public hearing on Tuesday, February 18th, 2025, to be held in person in the Colleen Corona Room in the Easton Town Hall, 136 Elm Street, and remote via Zoom on the application received from Douglas A. King Builders, Incorporated, for a special permit estate lot under Easton Town Code, Chapter 235, Zoning, 235-43, Estate Lots, to allow the creation of an estate lot at 4 Forbes Lane, Easton, Mass., Assessors Map 5R, Lot 364.
All right, thank you very much. Do we have anyone here?
So, as I understand it from Suzanne, Sam Schofield from Doug King's office was supposed to be online and doing a presentation.
Okay.
So, there we go. Well, you can chat with them and ask who they are. Do you need some help?
Yeah. Guess what?
There he is.
There he is. Sonia.
Hello. Welcome.
Unmute.
You got to unmute yourself. If you wouldn't mind in introducing yourself.
How you doing? My name is Sam. I'm from Douglas King Builders. Here to present 4 Forbes Lane proposed estate lot.
Welcome. You have a presentation for us tonight?
Yes. Let me gonna open up my plan here. Oop. Hold on. Just getting some sign-in things here. I don't know why it won't let me share my screen.
Do you have to give him permission, Suzanne? Do you have to give him permission to share a screen?
No, not to share it. Can you not find the little green button?
No, I have the green button. Open that up. Share the window, you select it. Oh, is this not?
The joys of Zoom.
Yeah. Well, let's see if this does it.
Okay. All right, you shared your screen.
It looks
I
like
think if you
it's
minimize,
underneath,
yeah,
There you go.
yeah, there you go.
Okay. You see it now?
Oh, we just
Nope,
lost you.
just lost it.
No, I'm gonna lose it. Oh, hold on. Funny, I don't get it keeps asking me to sign into Adobe. That's what it's doing to me. Yeah. Just keeps telling me invalid.
Are you going to be presenting on what the board has in front of us?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Can you direct us to? Can we do it like that?
You see this now?
Stephanie, or do we have to have it?
No, we're not able to
No,
see anything.
can't see it.
No. Why is that not
I
sharing?
can share my screen if,
Oh, if
Yeah,
you
that would be
you
great.
guys want.
And if you could do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know why it's not doing for me. I'll try to share the A&R plan.
All right. So,
All right, this one here is the lotting plan. So this was an A&R that was approved back in 2019 by the board, creating a 3.3 acre lot. It was called Lot A. And now what we're doing is subdividing it into Lot 1, what is the estate lot, and Lot 2, what is a conventional lot. I think the only, as Stephanie has seen in our stuff, that we've, through her comment letter, that we've met all the different conditions. There was only question that has been come up is from conservation, from Jennifer, about some adjacent wetlands, because we had a consultant look at those two lots, lots 1 and 2, and found no wetland on those locuses. But like since Jennifer had mentioned, there might be some resource areas adjacent. We are working with her through our consultant from LEC to address those and to see what those are, and then we'll go forward from there if we had to file with conservation.
Excellent. Stephanie?
So, okay, in order to create an estate lot, you have to have at least 40 feet of frontage, and the width of the estate lot at no point is less than 40 feet, which this complies with. And the area of the estate lot has to be at least double the minimum normally required for the district, which is 40,000 square feet of contiguous upland. And so you need 80,000 square feet of contiguous upland. My question for Sam is, are these, and then your standard conforming lot has to be 40,000 square feet of upland. Are these potential wetlands off-site or are they on-site?
No, they're offsite. That's why we had LEC go there and walk the whole site. And what she's talking about in hers, he talks about adjacent properties.
I'm sorry, she being
Jennifer from the land use. So if you look to north where it says Lot 2, and you go up a little bit, move the cursor a little more right in there, there's a detention basin right in there that goes north.
Oh, so this is the detention basin question. Yeah.
Yes.
And the reason it's important is a buffer zone to a wetland is not considered an area that is excluded from your 40,000 or 20,000 square feet of area. So if it's just the buffer zone, the lots meet the requirements for an estate lot, and then a remaining lot compliant with the standard zoning dimensional requirements.
Okay. Thank you, Stephanie. Board members, any comments or questions? Stephanie, I'm sorry.
No,
okay.
I have no comments, but I think you have.
Yep, I'm going to get to the members of the public in just a sec. I just want to make sure board members are all set, and it appears that everybody is. All right, do we have any members of the public wishing to speak? All right, if you want to come up, please come to the mic. State your name.
Either
Yeah,
one.
either one is fine. If you just wouldn't mind stating your name and address, please.
Sure, Wendy Schoenfeld, 175 Bay Road.
Thank you, Ms. Schoenfeld. Did you want to speak?
Yeah.
Okay.
I, being at 175 Bay Road, we are at a very close abutter. Where that house is on that map and where our house is just within the 15-foot butter or property line to the new house is just 15 feet. A couple of things that we're concerned. First of all is the landfill area that's behind, I guess that lot B, I think it is, behind there. Now, we've been there for 23 years in the house. Nothing's been disturbed back there. It's been beautiful, forest, animals, whatever. And now all of a sudden they want to build, which, you know, I understand that's all zoning and that was Doug King's property. However, if they disturb that landfill, I understand there's the property line of where the landfill is, but methane gas or whatever was in the landfill doesn't know what a property line is. So is that going to be disturbing whatever was in the landfill that might have seeped over the property line? So that's one of our main, you know, big concerns. The other thing is, so I understand as part of his special permit requirements, he listed impacts on natural environment, which is the landfill, the neighborhood character and the social structures. Of course, in our opinion, it's ruining the neighborhood because it's, you know, building more buildings and ruining the trees and, you know, what we see out our backyard. And the loss of privacy from 5 neighbors' backyards for just building these 2 houses. And I understand the main goal of the planning board is that, you know, it's more revenue for the town by having these 2 houses built. But, you know, in our eyes, I mean, it's a couple $1,000s versus the privacy of our home as well as 5 other homes who go behind that land. And then the other thing is I was looking at the memo, I guess it is, that was from Doug King dated February 14th. And then the interagency comments, I see the police department approved, the fire department said that the driveway dimensions need to be confirmed. The environmental planner, I guess is what Sam had just spoke about, that still needs to be discussed. And then the water division, you know, there's nothing there, and that's another concern of ours is how our water pressure is going to be affected, if at all, by having these other homes be built right behind our home. So.
Okay. So the 3 questions, Stephanie, do we have?
So Sam, I would
Okay.
I would ask Sam to respond to the question about the landfill.
On seepage, I'm not a landfill expert, but if you're looking at grading, you'll notice that we are not really substantially digging into the ground or disturbing anything across that area. It would just be in the house what's well outside of the limit of the landfill. And it's I know from history I've heard from Doug talking about, and I believe from other people in town, that it's a very shallow. It was used temporarily before they opened up the main landfill, when they closed Baldwin and before they opened up Prospect. So this landfill wasn't used for a long time. That's why it's not a big mound. It's a very level land out there for the most part. Then it goes up towards Fairfield Street. What was the original subdivision that Doug had built back in the mid-90s. That also, when we dug that detention basin, that is actually directly abutting it to the landfill on the right side of it, or the east side. If you look at on the north side of the property line, if you bring your cursor down a little bit, so that's the landfill. Now go to your right.
Yep.
Yeah, right in there. That whole lot there going up, that's the detention basin. What is already dug through, where we've had no problems with seepage or seen any evidence of any problems, what directly abuts the other edge of the landfill. And it is deeper than the existing ground because obviously it's a detention area. And we've heard no complaints and never had anything in all the years that it's been there. Like I said, I think that basin was built somewhere after 96 to 97, somewhere in that range when the subdivision was under construction.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Excellent, thank you.
Then, let's see. Your other questions again?
Well, about how the water division hasn't approved this and whether it's going to affect, we're concerned about our
So
water pressure.
I have, in all the time I've been here, I've not heard about a water pressure issue where adding 2 additional houses would affect water pressure in the other areas.
Yeah, because you're talking about 2 3/4 inch lines at most. They really don't affect it. I'd have to confirm, but if somebody I would worked on this subdivision as for an engineering company back when it was being under construction. For some reason, in my back of my mind, I remember that the water does loop up through Forbes and then takes a right and goes behind all the roads in Rockland Bay because we do have to loop the water to keep pressure up. But once again, like you're saying, Stephanie, I don't think 2 3/4 inch lines off a water main will affect the water pressure.
Okay. And then it's just the comment about the loss of privacy that, where.
If you go back to my, if you go up to I have an aerial photo going on there, right there. You can zoom in there. You can see kind of how all this wooded area, and I did put it approximately where that house would be.
Yep.
And then if you can zoom in, you can see where the lady from 175 Bay Road house is.
Yes,
You
that's
can see with all that with her natural woods and where our house is, that a lot of that buffer is staying in there. We will have the driveway cutting through the back of the lot. All the ones are going back to 179 to 183 Bay Road. All that will remain undisturbed land and wooded. As you can see, more towards Forbes Lane, the area is kind of open around the cul-de-sac. Existing, it is not a fully densely wooded area where we're proposed. That's the regular lot. There will be some trees coming down right where the cursor is right now, bring the driveway in, but also we'd maintain the buffers on either side of that, for landscaping buffers.
Okay. All right, thank you. That's what I had.
Thank you.
In the structure it's not on the 15-foot line, so I would estimate it's not that much more, but say it's probably the front corner it might be about 18 to 20 feet from that setback. And it is farther because it is on the corner.
All right, thank you. Is there anyone else from the public wishing to speak? Okay. You wouldn't mind sitting down and introducing yourself?
Hi, Stuart Schoenfeld. That was my wife who spoke earlier. I'm at, we're at 175 Bay, Butter. And I want to speak on Forbes Lane. I have a lot of concerns, quite frankly. Well, with the representative from Mr. King here, maybe we can get some answers, but I'd like to know how the builder, Doug King, couldn't finish one house over 25 years. That lot, when we moved in, was the same size lot as all other lots. And I don't know what changed, but we moved in knowing there was gonna be a house built there. However, it completely escapes me that the original lot was the same size as the neighbors, and prior boards here, prior people sitting on the board, shut down Mr. King for trying to do some, I don't even know what to call it, questionable changes to the property. I don't know what the thought was, but I mean, how long does it take to build a house? So Mr. King he waited until my opinion, this board changed enough to get some of these proposed ludicrous changes on the property. Somehow, Mr. King was given the authority to use open space transferred to residential land, which is right next to that basin that you're speaking about, that no one seems to know about this. And that was transferred for residential use, which was supposed to be open space. So the single home now wants to be 2 homes squeezed into the allocated property. And somehow Mr. King was granted the authority to create an estate lot, which now takes up the wooded wetland area behind 3 or 4 or 5 abutters to make a long, narrow backyard that was shown here on that plan. And that's just crazy. There are currently, we've lived there for almost 25 years. Many deer in those woods, as well as, there's 20, 25 turkeys every day. They have nests in the trees there, and all the planned proposal for this backyard will be chopping down all those trees. So you say we care about environmental impact. Good luck with those evicted animals who need to find a home after 25 years. This board has the authority to make, to impose conditions on a special permit, and I understand he's here for a special permit tonight. I'm opposed to this splitting the same lot yet again. I have a separate question. For over 25 years, I'd like to know what happened to Mr. King finishing off a proposed recreational park near the landfill for the residents behind us on Fairfield Drive before giving Mr. King any more special exemptions. I can go on about the abnormal lot shape that's proposed. I'm sure you're all aware of that. That doesn't do anything good for anyone or make any sense with the check mark shape on that plan to make 2 lots out of the one, or the now estate lot split into 2. But the real question is, does the town really benefit from this one house lot impacting at least 4, 5, 10 or more existing taxpayer homeowners as a result? If this board allows Mr. King to go forward with his current plan, then this board should impose at a minimum some maybe privacy vegetation that could impact the existing neighbors, because we'll be on top of each other now after these builds. My big concern here is that if Mr. King releases with this build toxic gases from the landfill from this project or proposed project, then Doug King is responsible for destroying a once beautiful neighborhood, and that's shameful. So I just wanted to go on record and say my piece, that I'm opposed to this, and I thank you for your time.
All right, thank you for your comments. Did you have any of the questions you would like have answered with them?
I would love to.
I heard possibly 2 questions.
Sure.
That I think one was and I don't know if you're able to answer, it was the recreation facility?
Again, when we moved in, there was a plan, and this whole, it's a landfill, it's all in red. There was nothing that was supposed to be built there, period. And now, changeover in the board, may or may not know that, it was open space, and open space to remain in private ownership. Somehow that changed along the way, I'm not sure what. And now Mr. King has not only taken the property that he planned for that house, which would have fit within the neighborhood design and such, but he's been granted that open space residential use, which is this little orange piece here, somehow along the way, and he's taken a portion of this landfill area that's marked open space, and now he's been granted that estate lot.
So I guess my question is,
So
you
what's the
have a
question?
representative from here. Do you have a
Right.
question for him about that?
So
I
what
understand your
happened
concerns.
to the proposed recreational area? It's marked on this plan as recreational easement, which was before, for that 4 Forbes, for the Fairfield Drive area that Mr. King was supposed to build. Is there anything on that? Is that project dead, or?
Could we have Mr. Schoenfeld identify the plan that he is
Yeah.
looking at?
Would you mind identifying, and then also
Sure.
you're gonna one more thing is you're gonna have to show it in some way, shape, or form that
Sure.
the gentleman appearing on Zoom can.
This
can
is
also respond.
prepared by Doug King Builders, dated January 18th, 2007. So that's what it was back then and prior to that. And I believe at that time, Mr. King was trying to do something with this, get some property that was open space changed to residential use. So he must have got that, but that wasn't good enough for Mr. King to go forward with that single property home.
So that we're not going to kind of cast
Okay.
character aspersions on people, especially if
understand.
they're not here to kind of defend themselves.
I understand.
That's a little bit too
It's my
far.
frustration.
I very much understand, but
Okay.
we're going to keep it to the kind of the facts as presented there.
Very
please.
good.
Thank you.
So they should have access to that since it's their plan that they had proposed back in 2007 at one time.
Okay. So that's assuming, however, you were with Mr. King in 2007 and have access to these plans. If not, can you see kind of what the gentleman is holding up on screen? Is that possible?
Yeah, that had to do with Silver Drive and working with the town of there was the Silver Drive subdivision that was done on the other side of the Rockland Bay subdivision.
Okay.
And they were dealing with the open space and putting it into different reserves. And that's why it's all different colors there. They were working with, I think, believe in ET Engineering at the time. Like I said, then once that was done, they got all the open space done. They went and built Silver Drive. That subdivision had it was a 4 housing lots. And then years later, after that was approved, that subdivision was built. We came back, like I said, in 2019 with the A&R that created Lot A, that created the what's the combined of both these lots before we subdivided, asking for this estate lot. That was approved by the board back in 2019, and I don't remember anything. I think I brought it to the board. I don't remember anyone making any comments to us about it from the public. And then we, looking at the estate law, we had gone back to town with a couple of different little proposals for this area. Nothing seemed to really fit, so that's when now we came back with the estate lot.
All right. Thank you.
If I may, I'm just confused. You didn't answer the question regarding that residential park easement that was planned for
I
that.
don't know the history on that end of it, but that obviously wasn't brought up to when we were doing the road acceptances and transferring for that other subdivision. I think if it was something that the town was looking for, it would have been done at that time. I don't recall anything ever being brought up about it.
Okay. Thank you for your response. Did you have any other one other question, and then we can kind of. I think there was one other one within the statement you made. I believe it was with you were talking about having a buffer. You were going to maybe ask if there could definitely be the buffer.
That's right.
All
So if this board, in your wisdom, moves forward with this project, I would ask that you, since it is a special permit, that you put a restriction on the building of it, just for the existing abutters, because their plan is to chop down a lot of trees and remove privacy. So maybe there's something they could put into their plan that would be, I don't know what, more trees or some type of privacy bushes. I know they use them in California a lot to block out neighbors that are on top of each other. Maybe there's something this board, I'd appreciate you could do and take that into consideration for Mr. King moving forward with this project, if that's the plan.
So I will just say kind of during my time on this board, which is obviously not the time within this project, but that the board has always been, I'd say, fairly consistent in making sure that the privacy of neighbors is respected with respect to keeping whatever whatever existing trees, bushes, et cetera, are there. And I know that the applicants that we've worked with have been very responsive to doing that as well. Would that be something that would be possible?
Yeah, and we have, I think Stephanie could attest to this, is we have a track history of working with the board and working with her department to make sure that we do buffers and make sure we do insulate against it. One of the primes, the last one we did was Weber Farm Estates, that we worked with the board and with the planning staff to make sure that we had saved what we could and also had adequate screening between the adjacent properties.
Excellent. Thank you very much for that. Does that kind of, so it would not be a restriction, it would just be kind of a requirement that to preserve what trees possible and to also ensure that that there's adequate buffering. And that would be consistent with other plans that this board has approved over the time that I have been on the board. And I think Stephanie pretty much consistent with the plans in general, correct? Mm-hmm. Okay.
Would there be a way for Mr. King to put that on the proposed plan as an amendment or a change?
So,
If I'm,
yeah.
I'd like to make an observation. So, which number house did you, we have 169, 175?
I think they're 175, right?
175.
Okay. Yeah. So it looks like there is a buffer on your property and 179 and 183 already that exists. So,
If you'd like to come out, I can certainly walk you through the property if you want to see it firsthand.
no, I'm just looking at the aerial photograph and.
Thank you, Joanne.
So, yeah, there looks like there is a natural buffer there, which is always, your best protection against abutting properties is when you have your own trees. And
Yeah, I don't think that tree plan is actually accurate for my property. I think there's more vegetation than not shown on this plan.
So I think that I think what Stephanie's trying to say is that while this could be kind of something that is mentioned in the plan, the fact that y'all also have your own buffers and so do your neighbors is something to definitely keep up as well. So it just kind of double protects. It's both kind of on their side and on your side. And they'd sometimes say fences make good neighbors, but I think maybe natural trees and vegetation make much better neighbors in this case. So those, I think, were the two questions you had presented to the board?
They were.
Okay.
I mean, just showing it at the plan, I have one final question, I guess, or a series of questions, if that's okay, Sam. I don't know if you're listening.
So I'm going to, just based on kind of the time, if you could speak to the board, but also just if we could kind of wrap it all up into one last question, if that's possible.
Will do.
Thank you.
This proposed change to make it a split property versus a single property to put two houses on property that was originally allocated for one, what is the process or the purpose, if you don't mind asking? I don't know if it was shared with you or not, this board or committee. Is this second property at Lot B? I understand it's something to do with not a normal house, or?
I'll let Stephanie respond to kind of that piece.
I'm not quite sure what the question is, but what I can tell you and why Mr. King wants to divide it, other than that the zoning allows for exactly this type of situation, where you have a lot that might not have the current required frontage, which at this point in time in a residential district is 150 feet. But you have a very large lot, and the zoning allows for the estate lot by special permit with reduced frontage, but double the amount of square footage, so that a developer or a property owner could divide the lot more than it would under the current zoning, district zoning.
For this,
and it's available to any property owner.
My understanding of the prior meeting, there was some discussion with Mr. King referred to something as was it a public charity, he called it, for that second property on Mount
I don't
And
know.
we can't speak to what kind of
Well, he
happened.
said it publicly at a meeting.
Well, correct, but we don't have the documentation on that. I guess what we're talking about is the plan as presented to us here.
Right, that's what I was asking
except-
for lot 2.
Yeah, but not the previous plans or whatever had been discussed in, I think you said 2019 or kind of prior to that. So with that, I'm going to thank you for your comments and thank you for your questions. And I appreciate you taking the time to speak with us today.
Thank you.
All right.
Appreciate it.
Is there anyone else from the public wishing to speak? No? Okay. All right, just checking.
Can I ask a clarifying
Yep.
question?
I was going to throw it out to the board next.
Sure.
Board
But
members.
what we have currently in front of us is for one single house, is the special permit for this estate lot.
Well, it's not for the house per se. They're
It's
just showing
just
a
a
footprint, which is
proposed
private.
Could,
They're,
yes.
the special permit is for the estate lot, and they're leaving a remainder lot.
A remainder lot.
And under the zoning, they have met the requirements for dividing a larger lot into an estate lot and a remainder lot. The remainder lot needs to comply with current zoning.
And would that remainder
Dimensional
lot
standards. Yes.
comply with current zoning to build
Yes.
a
Yep.
structure on it?
Yep. And, you know, any house that's built on that would have to meet the setback requirements
That has 150
on
foot of
both of
frontage.
them.
The second lot
Yes.
has the 150.
Yep.
Is Forbes Lane a town road?
Yes.
It-
No.
Is it, is for?
Yeah, it is a town
Oh,
accepted road, yes.
Thank you.
I
That was
should-
part of the
I
whole
should know
Rockland Bay
that. I did
subdivision
those
originally.
inspections years ago.
Yeah.
All right, board members, anyone else have any questions, comments? As such, do I hear a motion via the public hearing to close the public hearing? That would be the first and next step to this process.
And just, Suzanne, this is a special permit for the estate lot and an A&R for the second lot?
The A&R has been recorded.
For,
Yes, yes.
for the second lot?
Maybe just as.
Sam?
What's that? Yeah, so this, the whole thing is an A&R. Yes, we're asking for the special permit for lot 1 as an estate lot, and lot 2 obviously is a conventional, that's why on the plan, it's an A&R plan that would be signed.
Right.
Because
it's
we are creating these
creating a new
lots.
A&R, because they're
Yes.
dividing the lot.
Dividing it in two, so we'll
Right.
have one standard lot that meets
just one
current zoning,
field
just
lot.
regularly,
So
and then
it's
the
a-
other estate special permit.
Right, a vote to endorse the
Okay.
A&R.
So we would close the public hearing, vote on the special permit, and vote then to endorse the A&R? Okay. 3 steps.
Yes.
Okay. And do we have a motion to close the public hearing portion, seeing as we have no more public comment? If the board is satisfied?
Motion to close the public hearing?
All right.
Zigmund, second.
All right. Any further comment? Seeing none. Zygmunt?
Aye.
Weeks?
Aye.
Kidd?
Aye.
And Wolf is an aye as well. All right, moving on to the special permit for 4 Forbes Lane. Any comments, questions, further discussion from the board? Seeing none, do I have a motion?
Zigmund, I'll make a motion to issue the special permit for the estate lot at 4 Forbes Lane.
Second, Kidd.
Any further discussion? Seeing none? Kidd?
Aye.
Weeks?
Aye.
Zygmunt?
Aye.
And Wolf is an aye as well. So third A&R plan, and endorse?
Just a vote to
Okay,
endorse.
just to a vote to
or-
endorse the A&R? Yes. Do I have a motion? Approve or not approve?
Motion to
Or endorse, I'm sorry.
Endorse.
Motion
Yes.
to endorse the A&R
Get that
plan.
wrong every time.
Second.
All right, any further discussion? Seeing none? Weeks?
Aye.
Zigmund?
Aye.
Kidd?
Aye.
And Wolf is an aye as well. If y'all wouldn't mind, if you're leaving, could you please make sure that door stays open? Because it's a public meeting, so we just got to make sure people know that they can come in. Thank you so much.
Nikki, if I may, can I just ask Stephanie a question off the back of all this? The shape of that lot, the second lot on that map is really bizarre. Have you ever encountered any issues of that with that kind of lot in town before?
The zoning, yes. The short answer is yes. We've seen.
Yeah, because I'm thinking if maybe
odd
it's something to be revisited in the future.
I mean, this one's a little, pardon?
I'm thinking maybe it's something, I don't know if it's something maybe we need to revisit in future to look at.
Yeah, actually, an attempt was made and it failed at town meeting. This was back in 2014 to come up with a way to reduce or eliminate those odd-shaped lots. But yeah.
Yeah, because it seems like right now, I mean.
It's used to just get the full
Right, meet the acreage requirement.
Yeah. And there are some communities, I haven't explored it because it just didn't seem to be a priority of the board in the past. But like there is some methods that are used, like, you kind of draw a circle and you have to be able to move that circle kind of within the lot and not kind of go over and stuff, but I haven't spent a lot of time myself researching it.
It's an interesting question, though. In the end, someone's got to make a decision if they want to own that kind of a lot with that shape.
Yep.
What they're going to do with it. So.
Oh yeah, we saw on Canton Street is the example that comes to mind most for me, because they're essentially like you have a lot, and then it kind of it's almost like an arc, like a rainbow over it. Another one with a rainbow. They're really odd shaped.
Yeah. Well, and especially like that lot because it's got that little tiny sliver.
Yeah.
If you need access to that part or emergencies or I don't know, I can think of 1,000,001 horrible scenarios that will probably never happen, but it's a really odd shape.
Yep.
Yeah, and it connects on 2 roads, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, it does connect. Oh, it
Yeah,
does.
because it connects out.
It does.
Yeah, it connects
Well,
out onto the other road.
that's another challenge is there was a lot on Bay Road in particular, but the board has reviewed and endorsed plans where the frontage is on one road, but the access is on another road because there are wetlands along the front. Now, I found case law that referred to elusive frontage, but
interesting.
That can't be any more than like 10 feet or so. So on that. On
Yeah,
Fairfield.
it's just an interesting how it touches.
I didn't even notice that.
Yeah. Can we? Can actually, as we're talking about this, can we let Sam go?
Sure.
If you're ready.
I was interested in listening, but I wanted to thank the board for your time tonight too.
All right.
Great. Thank you. Have a great night, everyone.
That wasn't needed to make the 40,000.
All right. Thank you, Sam. Have a good night.
Right. You too. Bye.
I could see a lot of disputes coming up between these neighbors.
If that wasn't needed to
Right,
make the
that's kind of what I'm
40,000.
thinking with it too, Kathy.
again, this might be one of the extremes, but I've seen some really odd.
Yeah, there are some weird
At least
ones.
they're not penned
But
in
if that
on
wasn't
the
needed
one
to
side.
meet the 40,000, you
But
could
was
you
it?
could almost
Right.
make it into open space or something,
Right.
or
Right.
How much is that
because they're going to pay taxes on it.
that zig at the smallest point? Like that, like how?
So it has
Or-
to be 40 feet to a certain depth, like 100 feet, and that's not. So
Oh, no, I'm sorry, this little piece right here and the other,
what little piece?
the other lot.
I'm sorry, the
In
heat,
lot
Oh, wait.
two.
the dry heat in here
Yeah.
is giving me a
Yeah,
Yeah, it's
same.
brutal.
Yeah.
Yes, same.
I mean, if a
So,
driveway's,
in this second lot that the house is not, in theory, present on, if you look at that little narrow piece, the one that connects to two roads, like,
Right,
it
that-
narrows to, like, how many, like,
Well,
feet?
that's
Yeah.
what Alan was just
Yeah.
saying. It's
Oh,
very
yeah.
little, but
I don't think
so-
it's more than 5 or 10 feet.
Yeah.
But the requirement is
Horse
that
path.
the lot from the frontage
Uh-huh.
be a certain footage, I think it's 100 feet,
Okay.
to a certain depth. And that,
It technically meets
Okay.
it.
yeah,
Interesting.
yeah.
All right. Well, I learned a lot within this one, so thank you for that.
Interesting.
Are those going to be the only 2 houses on Forbes Lane?
One across the street. I think. Does it front on Forbes?
Yeah. Wait, going back
Yes,
to,
yes.
I think there's one.
Oh, I
there
see.
is,
Okay.
right there.
yeah, there's
One.
165.
Actually, no, that fronts on Bay.
Yeah, that's Bay.
Yep. There are no houses that actually front on Forbes.
There you
So
go.
Forbes was put in and it's had no houses on it as a town road?
Well, because I think he intended to build.
I'm not sure what the history
Yeah.
of this prior to the
Yeah,
board, but
I
from what
just-
I'm just going to say as a general, I gather that there was a history before.
Quite a bit of
I'll
history, it
just-
sounds
I'll-
like.
I was
Yeah.
just looking at it going, well, where are the other houses
But
on
are
that
you
street?
sure
And
that
I'm like,
front, I can't tell from here.
just-
Is that
yeah.
a driveway?
Yeah, but it's numbered. You see the number?
Oh, yeah, it's 165 Bay.
165 Bay.
Yeah. It's not numbered as Forbes, it's numbered as
I think
Bay.
this is just
Yeah, I see a driveway.
non-vegetated area.
But its driveway could go under Forbes, but it could be on Bay Road.
Yeah.
Yeah, interesting.
Put in it.
All right, we
All
are
right,
digressing.
so we are, and it is late, and
Yes.
oh man, it is very late. So first we have approval of minutes for February 3rd. Do I have any comments on the minutes? And see if there is none, do I have a vote to accept the minutes?
Motion to accept the minutes from February 3rd.
All right,
Second?
all right. Any further discussion? Seeing none. Weeks,
Aye?
Kidd,
Aye.
Zigmund,
Aye.
and Wolf is an aye as well. Chair updates. I am not the chair, and so I have no updates. I kind of love that. But Stephanie, moving on to planning director updates.
Yes,
Do you have any updates for us?
I do have an update for the board, which I discussed with the chair earlier, so he was aware. So we've talked a little bit about the budgetary challenges that are facing the town, and the PACE committee that has been learning more about how the town operates, where revenues come from, and what the issues are, and they're going to be formulating recommendations, which will likely include an override. And we have been asked to, the boards are being asked, the permitting boards that generate fees, to increase the fees that are charged for permit applications. The Conservation Commission increased their fees back around 2007, 2008, and have not done so in the interim. And I don't know that in the time I've worked for the town, which is going on 18 years, that the fees have ever been increased. So we're being asked to look at 15 to 25% increase. So I will be forwarding what that would look like, a chart that shows what the board would look like, and have asked that that be put on the next board meeting agenda.
Excellent.
Okay.
I'm sorry to hear that it has to happen, but I think that is definitely a viable option for this board to discuss, as I'm guessing that other options are not as viable nor as wanted.
Well, I think there's a lot of effort looking to both reduce and find ways to generate fees.
Um,
And
yeah,
one of the, I'm
okay.
sorry.
That's okay.
And somewhat related to that, and I think I might have mentioned this at the last meeting, is we received a grant through the Community Compact program at the state level, and they have a best practices, and we've received a grant to do a review of our permitting processes, not just the planning board, but the Conservation Commission. It will look at building permits and DPW permits, those type of things. And what it's looking for are ways to expedite the permitting process. Where are the holdups coming from? And can those be reduced or eliminated? I mean, one of the things we see on our end is stormwater is a big one. I don't know how much more work can be done there, but we'll be looking for recommendations. So I went out and requested quotes a couple of weeks ago. I've received one response so far. We have another few days before the quotes come in, and then we'll be awarding a contract and then starting to plan for that.
Excellent. That is some good news, I think. Can I ask one question about the fee increases? And you can tell me that it doesn't work in your case. I'm just familiar, like in the library world, we can oftentimes do comparisons with peer communities when I'm looking at different things. Is it possible to have something like that
yes,
happen? Okay.
I spent quite a bit of time on Friday going and pulling information on other communities. So yes.
Oh, excellent.
Yes.
Thank you.
We'll get a benchmark.
That's
Yes.
very helpful when you're
Yes.
kind of
It is
looking
helpful, yes.
to be able to track.
Are we?
Thank you
Yeah.
for the reminder too.
I was
on
thinking the
par?
same
Are
thing.
we too
Yeah.
low,
Yeah,
too high?
be good to know.
Yeah.
Already.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. So with that, we have no pertinent items not reasonably anticipated by the chair. So I guess we have one more.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Actually, can I just ask, sorry, just one quick question.
Sure.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering, Stephanie, when we talk about the permit fees next time, could you also kind of give us a little summary about how much time it actually takes on the staff side in terms of actually putting like something together so that we can kind of also look at
Yes.
what the cost is to the town?
Yep. Absolutely.
That'd be great.
That's very, very helpful. Thank you.
It's good to have that narrative, I think. Thank you.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All right. Any discussion? Seeing no further discussion. Zygmunt.
Yes, aye.
Weeks.
Aye.
Kidd.
Aye.
And Wolf is an aye as well. Thank you all very much. This has been a long meeting, and I appreciate everybody's time.